sanitation and water for all, and it's a global partnership which puts SDG 6 at the center of all the other SDGs. And it is hosted by the UN, so it was hosted by UNICEF in New York, and it was created in 2010. And the vision obviously is water and sanitation for all everywhere. So the vision is okay, but the geography is important because we try to concentrate on the individuals, communities, countries and regions that are hardest to reach, right? So when we speak of vulnerability, then the approach, the way that we approach this is bahupakshi, right? So there is government leadership, right? So in our case it's the Khane Pani Mantralaya, but the idea is for it to be a multi-stakeholder collaboration, right? So today there are 500 partner organizations, and out of which 88 are governments, and Nepal is one of those. And I think Sachivji spoke in the beginning, and Sachivji, that Nepal was one of the first countries to join the partnership, and so it's Nepal is here amongst the whole list of countries. And I said Bahupakshiya, and so it is government, which is the leading, sort of convener of everything, but we also work with civil society organizations, the private sector, utilities, research and learning, and international organizations like NGOs, funding agencies, banks, bilateral cooperations, etc. So there are 88 national governments and a total of 500 partners across these 6 groups. So our work is mostly about political will, which is why we're all here, multi-stakeholder approach, and about eventually, ultimately, the aim obviously is that you get enough investment to achieve the goal, right? So Nepal wants to do the same thing for the sector development plan, right? SWA wants to do the same thing for SDG 6, basically. So how to mobilize enough investment. Then obviously when you speak of WASH, water and sanitation, there is a link with health, there is a link with climate, which was already spoken, there is a link with nutrition, there is a link with humanitarian and crises, right? And many of the countries that I work with are in West Africa, which have had crises, political crises, security crises for many, many, many years, right? So how do you ensure basic services in humanitarian situations? And obviously education. One of the speakers before said, in India, my country also, but also in Nepal, many young girls, they have to drop out of school because of lack of adequate sanitation in schools. So WASH in schools is quite important. So this is how the different, how it's linked to the different sectors. Now the approach of SWA is like this. It's to engage with heads of state and heads of government. That's what we're doing today. We have ministerial meetings. So in the previous sector ministers meeting, the Honorable Minister from Nepal was there along with the whole delegation. And the current Minister of Finance participated in the Finance Ministers meeting, which was virtual because of COVID. So we've had a good engagement from there. Mobilization of parliamentarians. So I was very happy that that the honourable member of the committee was here, the parliamentary committee. Then there is the leadership, the leaders council. I'll tell you about it, and then there are visits like this one. So this is how the SWA approaches, and I told you about the Global Leadership Council. So essentially, it's a group of former heads of government and heads of state who become the spokesperson for water and sanitation. So if everything goes well, then the Nepalese Prime Minister would also become one of the spokespersons. And the reason this is important is because they speak between equals, right? So there's obviously the political pull and push, there is the influencing between peers, etc. So currently we have former presidents or prime ministers from Bhutan, Chile, Costa Rica, Malawi, Mexico, Mongolia, Senegal, Seychelles, and South Korea. And for example, the former Prime Minister of South Korea, he addressed a letter to the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal at the end of last year about water and sanitation. So this is our leadership council, and I'll stop. I won't go through this, but I told you essentially we work on improving investments in WASH, on multi-stakeholder collaboration, and on political will. So I won't give you more examples. Dr. Oja spoke about the commitments, right? So the commitments are basically the commitments that were taken by FANSA, by UNICEF, by the ministry, etc. And these are commitments which are not supposed to be like 15, 20, 30 years. It's not a vision. It's a commitment which is over 1 year or 2 years. What does the government commit to do? And based on what the government commits to do and declares in the sector ministers meeting, other partners rally around that. So we have this mechanism called the mutual accountability mechanism, and today there are over 440 commitments which have been declared by different types of stakeholders. Okay. Then I told you about the cross-sectoral approach, humanitarian, etc. So I'll stop here with the overall presentation of SWA and just tell you a little bit about why Nepal is such a dear and valuable partner for SWA. Because Nepal was amongst the first countries to join SWA when SWA was established in 2010. Okay, so from the beginning. Then my speakers before spoke about the steering committee. So essentially I am a part of the secretariat. We execute the decisions taken by the steering committee. So Nepal for 6 years was on the steering committee representing Asia Pacific, and the voice of Nepal, the Nepalese government, was important in identifying what SWA does. So Nepal has influenced that. Then around COVID, there was a couple of things in which the Prime Minister, for example, was one of the signatories of the call to action on WASH and COVID. And then Nepal at several points has been highlighted for its very good practices. So in the quarterly note on the coordination, in the sector ministers meeting on accountability, in bilateral with Ethiopia and Cambodia on specific topics, in the partners climate compendium. So across the years, through the years, Nepal has been highlighted as a good practice on many different topics, and also in the global accountability report. So over 2020 to 2023, Nepal was a priority country for SWA on multi-stakeholder collaborations. So Dr. Ajit has already spoken about it, so has Madam Sachiv. Let me just tell you about this quick topic today, which is that since last year, SWA is prioritizing Nepal for high-level political engagement. Okay, and that is why this mission, this workshop are a part of that prioritization. There are many other countries, such as Cambodia, Dominican Republic, Senegal, etc. I'll come to those in a bit. And there has already been communication between our leadership and Nepal's decision makers. And finally, my mission is a part of that. So I'll stop here with the first section.